The two articles I have chosen were Choosing to be Positive by Jones, Bailey, Byron, Michel, and Partee, as well as 2 by 10 Conversations by Fisher and Frey. I named my slideshow Positivity is as Contagious as Negativity because I want you to question what are you spreading in your classroom. So this year I am currently teaching a primary 1 split class, and I've had a lot of behavior issues in my class. So I have students who are very violent even at 5 years old. I have students who are high functioning autistic, I have low functioning autistic, and I have 4 with ADHD. So it can get stressful, and it's easy to become negative. It's easy to get frustrated when they're being disrespectful and disruptive, but I've tried really hard to maintain positivity this year. And because of that, there's been such huge growth in their behavior that I'm actually moving to grade 2 next year to loop a lot of the students to continue the positive reinforcement that we've been working on, as well as the progress in academics and working towards a positive relationship with them. So the first article that I chose was Choosing to be Positive. So I do think that this is a choice. It's not always an easy choice, and everybody has bad days, and I don't think you can be positive every single day, but I do think that it's worth trying your best. So some of my takeaways from this article: a positive student-teacher relationship creates an environment where the student feels safe to learn through trial and error. So I actually do this quite often in my classroom, where I want students to participate even if they are not necessarily sure of the right answer. They're not afraid to make mistakes. I always want them to put their hand up. I always want them to be trying their best. So if they put their hand up and I'm waiting for an answer and they're giving me that blank, scared stare because they really don't know the answer, I will turn around and I'll say, "Thanks for participating. Do you want to choose a friend to help you answer that question?" So the other kids will raise their hand and they get to choose a peer from the class to help them answer. So they're never feeling bad, they're never feeling negative about the fact that they don't know the answer. It continues to foster engagement and participation and learning. So I don't want them to be afraid to make mistakes. They're more relaxed in the classroom. They don't constantly have their guard up. When they have their guard up, they're more likely to have conflict because they're in this constant state of fight or flight. So that's what I've found so far this year. I've also realized that a punitive environment dismisses the student's side of the story. The consequences are enforced, and the student does not have a chance to correct the behavior or even explain what happened, and this will create a break in the teacher-student relationship. So that I found very interesting in the article. A lot of kids, you can threaten to sit down or I'll send you to the office, and they will look at you and say, "I don't care," because they really don't. They don't care if you send them to the office. They don't care if you send them home. So why are they going to change their behavior? They're not going to. In the article, it was explaining that often the teacher won't even give the student a chance to explain what the negative behavior was caused by. So perhaps the student is standing up during circle time and they're stomping their foot. In the article, the teacher immediately sends them to the office without explanation. Well, perhaps their foot was asleep because it felt like pins and needles and it was hurting them. But without an opportunity to explain themselves, the student will be furious, being punished for getting up at a circle. The teacher would require a different approach. So a student could do the exact same thing because somebody that they don't like sat beside them. Well, that's a reason to have a discussion, not because their foot fell asleep. So the student's side of the story is really important. And when they have no opportunity to explain the reasonings for their behavior, you're dismissing them completely. So I noted that we would never dismiss a peer like that because it is disrespectful. Um, and a lot of things that we do are part of the hidden curriculum, and we are teaching them to be disrespectful because we are the role models that they're supposed to follow. So if we are never allowing them to be part of the conversation, they're not going to allow others to be part of the conversation. So perhaps the next time somebody's walking down the hall and bumps into them by accident, they're just going to turn around and shove them back. They're not going to wait for an explanation because they were never taught to wait for an explanation. They were never taught that there's two sides to every story. And so we need to be the role models to show them good communication. I also added cool down space in here because I know that sometimes kids get frustrated, and whether the curriculum is too hard or they're having a bad day, or they are just upset about something that happened at recess or lunch, they don't necessarily have the same tools that we have to calm ourselves down, to redirect ourselves, to move on. So I have a cool down space in my classroom. Like I said, there are a lot of behavior issues in my classroom, so it became necessary. I have a beanbag chair and I have a basket beside it with books, some coloring sheets, some markers. I have a teddy bear. There's a few things in there that they can take 5 minutes, and there's a timer, and they know it's only 5 minutes. They're not allowed to sit there all day, but it gives them a few minutes to themselves. We've talked about it. Nobody goes over and talks to the people who are in the calm down space. It took a lot of work to get that there. I also had a student who would run away from class and hide in the junior high wing of our school because we're a primary to grade 8 in a dark room under a table and nobody could find them. He became quite the flight risk because his anxiety would escalate and he would just run, and he would run really fast and become quite violent. So I also have a tent in my classroom, which is his safe space to run away. So I think that when you have a positive relationship with your students, you really get to know them, and you get to know the things that will help them to succeed. That's why we're there. The second article that I chose is the 2x10 Conversations. Um, I really enjoyed this one. The audio conversations wouldn't work for me. It kept bringing up an error message, but I did enjoy reading the article because I feel like I do have a lot of conversations that are not necessarily about academics with my students. I would spend lunch with them and just talk to them about how their weekend was, what sports they're into, where they went over the weekend, what they did. Um, and that building a trusting relationship was really important to me. Some of the takeaways from this article is that the teacher should take on the role of a problem solver instead of the disciplinary with the student. And so, like I said before, when they have a negative behavior, they don't care that you're going to send them to the office. They don't care that their marks are bad. They want somebody to care about them. So sometimes we may see students as a single story, and perhaps we should take the time to get to know them. This may help us understand why they're acting the way they are. So I know that I have a student in my class who has autism, and his mom is having a baby next week, and it's really upsetting him because he doesn't deal well with change. And so last year he would become very violent in the class, would have to be evacuated because he would throw tables and chairs and things like that. But I've really worked hard to establish a really great relationship with him, and so now he will come and he will hug me really tight when he's feeling frustrated because that pressure makes him feel better. But it took a little while to figure out something that would work for him other than violence. So I also think that we have to break down the barriers that they've put up to have simple conversations. I I noticed that last year his teacher was not very schedule orientated, so they would have snack sometimes before they went out to play or snack after they went out to play, but he is very rigid in his schedule, and this did not help him succeed because he has to know exactly what his day is going to look like every day. And I work with him with the schedule. So if I decide that math is done early and I'm going to do a read aloud, I physically put the read aloud into the schedule and go talk to them for a minute about it and say, you know what? Everyone's wrapping up their math a little early. We're going to do a read aloud now, but I've put it in my schedule. Do you see it up on the board? It's right here where the read aloud is. And he'll say, oh, okay. But if I just called them up and started doing a read aloud, he would get frustrated and upset because it's not in the schedule. And so I think that we need to tailor our classroom to help them succeed. Little things like that can make such a huge difference. But I wouldn't have known these things about him had I not had these conversations, had I not worked really hard at the beginning of the year to get to know these students, to know what helps them or what upsets them. So we as teachers can get the whole picture of them, and then we can learn about what troubles them, what interests them, what goals they have, how we can engage them, because some kids like dinosaurs, and so if you brought in a story about dinosaurs when they're having a hard time sitting during circle or sitting during read aloud, and you read this amazing story about dinosaurs, they're going to be engaged. They're going to be listening because they are excited about it. The little positive things that you do for them will help them become a better student. It helps the whole class become more harmonized. So with this article, I noticed that she took the time and really made a difference in one student's life. It is time consuming to do it when you have 25, 30 students, but it is so worth it. It's worth it when they come to you when they're excited about something. It's worth it when they come to you when they're upset. They open up to you about what's bothering them, and you can just build a strong relationship with them. It's based off of respect and honesty, and they're right, you do share things about yourself with them. So I have two daughters. One of my daughters is in primary and the other one's in grade 8, and I talk about them all the time. I share things that they love to do. I share funny things that we've done over the weekend. I will write my stories about them when I'm modeling in writer's workshop. I really do try to maintain a positive relationship, and I am not perfect, and there are days when it's frustrating when they won't sit down and they won't listen and they won't stop talking. But the more negative that you become, the more negative they become. The harder that if you're going to yell at them, they're going to yell back at you, because you are the role model. You are the one showing them how to behave in school. You're the one showing them what is acceptable behavior and what is unacceptable behavior. And there are lots of times in working through issues of not hitting other children, and we do caring school communities where we have conversations. We don't mention names. It's not about shaming a child who did something wrong. It's about talking as a group. What else could they have done, or what went well today? What are we going to try differently next time? So I know that I had a guest teacher a few weeks ago, and they were not on their best behavior. And I had told them, I really pumped them up. I said, you know what? I told them what an amazing class you were going to be, and I'm so sad that you didn't show them that side of you. And we talked about what sorts of things went wrong and what they could do next time to make it better. And they were really hoping that the sub would come back so that they could show her how amazing they could be. When you include them, they feel more empowered, and they come to school because they're excited to learn, they're excited to see you. They come back on Monday and they're like, I missed you this weekend, guess what happened? They should love school at this age. They should love to come to school, and they should feel safe and comfortable and happy. And I think that if the teacher is unhappy, the students will be unhappy, and we are the ones that can model how to turn things around and maintain a positivity. And that's what we should be doing.